An encrypted line between Washington and Tel Aviv recently carried a conversation that abandoned the usual protocols of high-level statecraft. It was an explosive, expletive-filled confrontation between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. The American president lost his temper. According to leaked reports from U.S. officials, Trump used the F-word, called the Israeli prime minister crazy, and delivered a blunt ultimatum, claiming Netanyahu would be in prison right now if it weren't for the legal and diplomatic protection of the United States. This friction marks a sharp departure from the previous 8 decades. Since 1948, the United States has operated as Israel's primary logistical and diplomatic shield, a relationship built on the assumption that both nations' strategic interests remained in lockstep. That shield is built on over $260 billion in cumulative military aid, constant ammunition resupplies, and the repeated use of the American veto to block resolutions at the United Nations. But that historical influence is slipping. Washington is now openly asking for a regional ceasefire, and the dependent proxy is refusing to listen. To understand why the White House is so frustrated, we have to look at a massive geopolitical maneuver being conducted in the shadows of the Persian Gulf. This covert $300 billion deal, negotiated via Qatar and Pakistan, aimed to reset U.S.-Iran relations. The U.S. releases frozen assets and opens infrastructure to corporations in exchange for halting Iran's nuclear programs. Tehran then guarantees safe energy flow through the Strait of Hormuz. For Trump, the goal was macroeconomic, flooding the market with Iranian oil to drive global prices down right before the American election cycle. But this entire multi-billion-dollar master plan relied on one non-negotiable condition: absolute military silence across the region. That silence ended when Benjamin Netanyahu, facing his own domestic survival crisis, ignored Washington's demands for restraint. The Israeli Defense Forces launched an aggressive ground operation into southern Lebanon, pushing combat units past the strategic boundary of the Litani River. By seizing Beaufort Castle, a strategic hilltop fortress nearly a millennium old, Israel established a key observation post overlooking the valley, signaling preparation for a long-term occupation. Israel further escalated the conflict by launching airstrikes into civilian areas of Beirut to target Hezbollah's leadership. The reaction from Tehran was immediate. Iran officially walked away from the $300 billion deal, and retaliatory strikes were soon launched against 20 U.S. military bases located across the Middle East. With the deal dead and the Strait of Hormuz under threat, global oil prices instantly jumped to $94 a barrel. By focusing on a localized border war to maintain his domestic position, Netanyahu effectively neutralized the American president's ultimate economic objective. A moment of wonder. This raises a question about the limits of American power. Why can't the president stop a state entirely dependent on his support? The answer lies in the domestic structures of the U.S. presidency. Trump relies on critical funding from massive tech, oil, and pro-Israel lobbies. If these groups withdraw their support, they have the leverage to cripple an administration's campaign infrastructure. Netanyahu understands this leverage. He knows that despite the heated rhetoric from the White House, the American political system is currently unable to actually ground the cargo planes or halt the flow of ammunition. By publicly defying ceasefire demands, Netanyahu has demonstrated that the threat of losing American support is currently a hollow one. International observers are realizing that the traditional hierarchy of the U.S.-Israel alliance is being challenged in a way that has no modern precedent. The United States is discovering that its massive logistical leverage is only effective if it's willing to use it, and Netanyahu is betting his political survival on the fact that, right now, Washington won't.